They say freedom lives in the little things: owning a home, mowing your lawn, choosing the color of your front door. But somewhere along the line, someone realized if you control those little things, you don't need to control anything else. You already own the people. My name is Caleb Mercer. I fought wars overseas, toppled regimes, and buried secrets the world wasn't ready for. But I never thought the real war, the one that mattered, would be fought in my own neighborhood. Over fences, over silence, over code. Caleb Mercer stood on the gravel shoulder of North Pine Street, blinking at the space where his house used to be. At first, he thought he'd pulled onto the wrong street. He'd been gone less than 3 weeks. A quiet cabin in the Rockies. No reception, no contact by design. He needed silence after what happened in Istanbul. After what he'd done in Istanbul. But this wasn't silence. This was absence. His house, his modest modern ranch tucked into the peaceful cul-de-sac of Hawthorne Ridge, was gone, flattened, erased like a typo. In its place was nothing but jagged splinters, shattered tile, bent rebar, and the twisted steel skeleton of what had once been a security door. The garden he'd planted with his daughter last spring, buried under bulldozer tracks. The porch swing she used to read on, crushed into the mud. The safe room, tucked behind a false pantry wall, containing 2 flash drives, 3 physical dossiers, and a signed affidavit protected under federal clearance, was gone. Just like that. Caleb didn't move, didn't speak. His fists curled and unclenched at his sides. His jaw worked against itself. Behind his stoic eyes, the gears turned. A neighbor finally stepped out. Older man, red flannel shirt, holding a rake, like he'd been waiting for this. "You must be Mercer," the man said, voice hesitant. "We didn't know how to reach you. They came last week, said it was condemned, said the HOA filed an emergency motion." Caleb turned toward him slowly. "The HOA? Yeah, Hawthorne Heritage Association. They said you failed a visual compliance inspection, and some kind of permit lapse. I filed every permit myself and passed every inspection." The man looked away. "You should talk to the board." Caleb walked the perimeter of the lot. No yellow tape, no signage, no warning. Just ground where his past used to be. He crouched near what was once the southwest corner. His daughter's room. Only a cracked piece of drywall remained, splashed with a faded watercolor of a horse she painted when she was 8. He picked it up. He stood. He left. 30 minutes later, Caleb walked into the office of the Hawthorne Heritage HOA, located in a sleek glass and brick building next to a yoga studio and a vegan bakery. It smelled like lemongrass and toner. The receptionist didn't even look up. "I'm here to speak with whoever authorized the demolition at 4819 North Pine." She sighed and slid a clipboard across the counter. "Submit your complaint in writing. Our board meets the 2nd Tuesday of every month." "It was my house," he said. That got her attention. She looked up, then looked down. "You'll need to talk to Chairwoman Renner, but she's in a meeting." Caleb leaned in. "Get her out of it." The woman opened her mouth to argue, but paused when she met his eyes. The weight behind them. She tapped her headset. "Ms. Renner? There's someone here." 2 minutes later, Eliza Renner stepped into the lobby. Blonde hair in a bun so tight it looked painful. Designer glasses perched high on her nose. Tailored gray suit sharp as a scalpel. She wore the confidence of someone who had never been challenged, until now. "Mr. Mercer," she said, offering her hand. He didn't take it. She let it drop. "I've been expecting you. You demolished my house. We followed protocol. You didn't notify me. We posted on your door. Twice." Caleb stared at her. "You think a printed notice covers the destruction of private property?" "Your property was in violation of Article 7, Section 3, structures failing to meet neighborhood harmony requirements. Your exterior paint had faded by more than 30%, and your garage had an unauthorized antenna. That antenna is encrypted DoD hardware. I had clearance." She blinked, then smiled. "You're welcome to dispute the action." "Where's the order?" "It's internal. Not all our resolutions go through the city. You mean it's off the books? She stepped closer, her tone syrup-sweet. This is Hawthorne Ridge, Mr. Mercer. You may have been someone somewhere else, but here, we follow our own system. Caleb studied her. No fear, no shame, just ego and power. The fake civility of bureaucracy weaponized. He nodded once, slowly. Then I'll go through your system, he said. He turned to leave. Mr. Mercer, Eliza called after him, you should be grateful. Your house was bringing down property values. He didn't stop. But in that moment, something clicked. A detail. There was no permit tag at the site, no demolition company name, no records on public file, and none of the construction debris had been hauled away. This wasn't about paint. This wasn't about harmony. Someone wanted that land. Quickly, quietly, without questions. And now Caleb had a question they couldn't afford him asking. That night, Caleb sat alone in a motel room just outside city limits. Dim lamp, coffee cold, laptop open, fingers flying across keys. He accessed building permits. Nothing filed. He checked property transfers. None. Checked civil complaints. None. But there was a ping. A single, sealed motion filed 5 days earlier. Expedited under emergency zoning reassessment. Signed off not by the HOA, but by a private development trust. The name on the filing? Trident Equities. His breath caught. That name was familiar. Not from public records, but from mission files. Trident was a shell company, one of a dozen, tied to covert infrastructure acquisitions across Europe. They were linked to underground fiber relays, data nodes, classified. And now, they owned his backyard. He leaned back, silent code. He hadn't heard that phrase in over a decade. Not since the Black Project at Langley. A self-cloaking data protocol, used for covert government communication lines. Only a handful of people had ever touched the code. And now it had reappeared, buried under the foundation of a house that no longer existed. His house. He closed the laptop. Someone just kicked the wrong hornet's nest. The next morning, Caleb Mercer walked into a law office that looked like it had lost a fight with a wildfire. The ceiling fan wobbled. Paint peeled from the walls. The receptionist desk was unmanned, but the lights were on. This was Lucia Vega's place. She had been disbarred once, got reinstated, sued the city twice and won both times. And according to an old Langley contact, she was the only attorney within 50 miles willing to take on Hawthorne Heritage HOA. Caleb knocked once on the door labeled private, don't even think about it. It opened halfway. Lucia stood barefoot in jeans and a worn tank top, coffee in hand, hair a mess of black curls. Her eyes narrowed when she saw him. Mercer? He nodded. You don't look like a victim. I'm not. Then why the hell are you here? They demolished my house. Lucia sipped her coffee. I'm listening. 15 minutes later, they sat across from each other, documents spread across a cracked wooden table. Caleb laid it all out. HOA, the emergency order, the missing permits, Trident Equities. Lucia didn't interrupt. She just flipped through the papers with eyes trained like a hawk. You got lucky, she said finally. Didn't feel like it. No, I mean this. She tapped the sealed motion. Most of the time they cover their tracks better. But this one was rushed, probably under pressure, sloppy. And sloppy makes them vulnerable. Caleb leaned back. So what's the angle? Lucia stood, walked to a cabinet, and pulled out a yellowed folder labeled Condemned Properties, HH Case Group. She laid it beside his. Same motion, same trust, different name on the title, different address, last month. Same outcome flattened house, violation reason, and silence. How many are there? 17, she said. In the last year. He exhaled. No media? They don't care. HOA operates like a private government. No press access to internal decisions. No obligation to explain anything. Hell, most of these people didn't even fight back. They thought it was just bad luck. But it's not. Lucia's eyes darkened. No, it's calculated. She stepped closer. And if Trident's involved, this isn't just about property. This is about infrastructure. You believe in coincidences? Caleb asked. Only when I'm drunk. Later that evening, Caleb sat parked outside a broken-down internet cafe 3 blocks off the freeway. He had to call in a ghost, someone who wasn't supposed to exist anymore. Juno Malik. They met once, years ago. Caleb was part of a Black Ops task force. Juno was the target. An anarchist hacker prodigy with enough digital blood on his hands to warrant a kill order. But when they finally cornered him in Prague, Caleb hesitated. Let him slip through the net. He never told anyone why. Now he needed Juno, and Juno had agreed to meet. The door opened. A thin man with ink-black hair, tattoos up both arms, and a hoodie 2 sizes too big slid into the passenger seat without a word. No handshake, no smile, just a look. I heard you lost your house, Juno said. Tragic. Very HGTV meets NSA. You still tracking Trident? Juno laughed once, low and bitter. Trident's been dead for 5 years, on paper. But the code they use to run their nodes? That's alive. And it's mutating. Caleb showed him the motion file. Can you trace the network behind this? Juno took one look, snorted. That's not just Trident, that's silent code. Version 3 point something. With cloaking layers I've never even seen. You wrote this? I wrote the first draft, Juno whistled. And now it's eating real estate. Someone buried a server node under my house. They wanted it, badly. Well, they got it. Question is, why now? Caleb hesitated. I think someone's turning silent code into something it wasn't meant to be. Not just hiding information. Controlling access to infrastructure. Remote governance, Juno said, eyes sharp. If they're using HOA platforms as input layers. They could reroute legal property rights, Caleb finished. In real time. Juno nodded slowly. That's evil. Impressive, but evil. I need a map, Caleb said. I need to know how far this goes. Juno leaned back, tapping his fingers. You sure you want to see that? I need to. Juno smiled for the first time. All right, Agent Mercer. Let's pull the thread and see what unravels. That night, back in his motel room, Caleb received a ping on a burner laptop. Juno had sent the map. It was black. Then, one by one, small red dots lit up across the screen, each representing a node activated by silent code's buried infrastructure. It wasn't just his neighborhood or his city. It was national. Dozens of HOA zones, hundreds of targeted properties. Trident wasn't dead, it had evolved, privatized, monetized, weaponized, and if no one stopped it, silent code wouldn't just erase houses. It would erase ownership, erase identity, erase democracy. Caleb Mercer knew what war felt like. Not just the bullets, the waiting, the wondering, the moment right before everything explodes. This was worse. This was quiet. The kind of quiet that meant someone powerful had noticed him and chosen not to strike just yet. That scared him more than open fire. At 2:43 a.m., Lucia Vega's office burned. A fire started accidentally, according to the fire chief. Electrical fault, nothing suspicious, except the fact that Lucia's case files were gone. Only the HOA records. Nothing else touched. Her laptop? Melted. Hard drive gone. Security footage? Wiped. She called Caleb in a whisper from a diner payphone, with shaking hands. They came inside, she said. They didn't steal anything, just erased it. You okay? I wasn't in the office, thank God, but it was a message. Caleb knew it too. The Foundation had eyes everywhere, and now they were watching him. Later that morning, Juno called. Bad news, he said. I assumed. I traced the Trident and architecture to a shell company front in D.C. The paperwork leads to a PAC. The PAC funds. Guess what? What? The National Alliance of Community Oversight Boards, NACOB, a lobby group for HOA systems. They legalized the takeover, Caleb muttered. They did more than that. They funded a software initiative last year called Project Terraform. Hidden in the fine print, experimental, decentralized governance models, built on silent code. Caleb sat down hard. They weren't just trying to steal land. They were trying to replace government street by street, block by block, under the mask of homeowners associations. Where's the backbone server? Traced it to Sacramento. State contract. Masked as an urban planning AI. Caleb didn't wait. He needed proof. Real, irrefutable proof. Something big enough to bring the feds in. Something they couldn't bury. That meant getting inside the central HOA data center. The one nestled in the basement of the Hawthorne Ridge Civic Hub. The same building where Eliza Renner and her cronies held their meetings. Problem was, Caleb wasn't welcome anymore. He walked in anyway. The security guard at the door stood up. "Sir, you've been barred from entry." "Yeah," Caleb said, pulling out an ID badge. "But the Department of Homeland Security hasn't." The guard's face twisted. "That's fake." Caleb didn't blink. "Are you sure you want to test that theory?" A beat. Then another. The guard sat down. Caleb walked past. In the elevator, Caleb's heart pounded. He wasn't sure what was scarier, being caught or not finding anything at all. But when he reached the lower level, there it was. A cold, windowless server room humming with quiet menace. Glass walls, blinking lights, heat coiled like tension in the air. He moved fast, pulled a drive from his jacket, plugged into the primary port, started the upload. Behind him, a quiet click echoed. He turned. Eliza Renner, holding a small silver pistol, wearing that same tailored suit. "I hoped you'd show up," she said. "You're predictable, Mr. Mercer. Like a spy playing cowboy." "You're out of your league." She stepped closer. "We're not stealing anything. We're preserving control. In a world where chaos is rising, silent code is order. It's logic. It's peace. You're rewriting laws. We're replacing obsolete ones. You're erasing people." She smiled. "Only the ones who won't play by the rules." Behind Caleb, the upload bar ticked toward 70%. She raised the gun. Caleb moved. The scuffle was fast, brutal. Training kicked in. Caleb slammed her arm into the wall, grabbed the weapon, twisted. She screamed. The gun clattered. He shoved her away, grabbed the drive, and ran. Alarm screamed through the building. As he burst through the stairwell, 2 security guards appeared, guns drawn. He dove left, rolled behind a column, pulled out a flash grenade Juno gave him, just in case. Popped the pin, counted to 2, threw, light exploded. Screams. He ran. He didn't stop until he reached the edge of town. Lucia was waiting in a borrowed SUV. Caleb climbed in, blood on his temple, breath ragged. "You get it?" she asked. He held up the drive. She stepped on the gas. 2 hours later, in a motel room lit only by desk lamp, Caleb, Lucia, and Juno watched the files come to life. Blueprints, meeting transcripts, signed NDAs, audio logs, names, banks, backdoor software embedded in HOA platforms, auto-find generation, property seizure algorithms, behavioral data tracking on homeowners. Lucia leaned forward. This is a digital coup." "It's worse," Juno added. "This is scalable, replicable. With enough influence, they could roll it out across the country in months." "They already have," Caleb said. He pointed at the map. "They just haven't turned it on everywhere, yet." He leaned back, exhausted. His hands were shaking now. For the first time in years, not from adrenaline, but from real fear. The kind that doesn't come from being hunted. The kind that comes from knowing the system you served was never yours to begin with. The footage leaked just after midnight. Lucia uploaded it from a burner network, routed through a South Korean proxy, just to be safe. It only took 20 seconds for the first version of the clip to hit Twitter, then Telegram, then Reddit. Then everywhere. A shadowy figure in a tailored suit, Eliza Renner, sitting in a boardroom with four men. Audio barely audible, but enough to catch keywords. Automation of ownership, data-triggered seizure, acceptable casualties. The documents backed it up. Digital property seizure models, resident behavior scoring, plans to replace county registrars with encrypted AI decision-making tools, all run by a privatized HOA network built on silent code. It was, essentially, a legalized land grab machine. And it was real. By sunrise, the fire had already caught. Local news picked up the clip. By 9 a.m. it hit national. Caleb watched it all from a grimy diner TV, coffee gone cold in his hands. Lucia sat across from him, eyes scanning her phone. City Hall issued a statement. They're opening an emergency review of the HOA system. They're spooked. Juno leaned in from the other side of the booth. One problem. Caleb looked up. What now? They're trying to spin it. They're saying it's the work of a rogue faction, blaming it on you. Caleb scoffed. Of course. Also, Juno continued, your photo is trending under #HO terrorist. Caleb exhaled. The Foundation isn't dead, Lucia said. They're adapting. They always do, Caleb muttered. 3 hours later, they got the call. A whistleblower. Not just any source, an internal systems architect at Trident. Someone who had helped build the silent code deployment for NACOB. She wanted to meet. Said she had something bigger than a leak. Her name was Maya Stroud. She had less than 48 hours before she was scheduled to be relocated, Foundation speak for disappeared. The meeting took place in the back of an abandoned community rec center. Lucia stood watch. Juno ran a radio jammer to block external signals. Caleb paced the room like a caged animal, nerves sharp. Then the door creaked. Maya stepped inside, mid-30s, worn denim jacket, eyes wide with paranoia. She was shaking. I don't have much time, she said, pulling out a black encrypted drive. This has everything. Caleb approached slowly. Define everything. Master keys, backdoor strings, the full map. Not just where silent code is deployed, but where it's about to go live. 47 states, local pilot programs hidden in city zoning, HOA-run courts, AI-based law enforcement for neighborhood compliance. It's all in there. She paused. Her voice cracked. They're calling it Civic Sync. Phase 1 launches next month. Caleb took the drive. Why now? Because someone inside accelerated the schedule. They're afraid of losing control, of the leak, of you. That was when the lights went out. Gunshots cracked through the hallway outside. Lucia shouted, Move! Juno yanked Maya down behind an overturned table. Caleb drew his sidearm and old cig from his field days, checked the magazine, and turned toward the entryway. 1 second. 2. Then the door exploded inward. 2 men in tactical black entered, muzzle sweeping. Caleb dropped one with a shot to the shoulder. The other dove behind cover, spraying blindly. Lush opened fire from the side. 1 shot. 2. Silence. They ran. Maya was hit-grazed on the side, but alive. Caleb helped her into the SUV. Juno peeled out, tires screaming. They didn't stop until they hit the city limits. They went underground after that. Burner phones, masked IPs, no hotel twice. They moved like fugitives, because they were. Meanwhile, the world above twisted. Cable news painted Caleb as a renegade hacker mercenary, using cyber weapons to destabilize the most efficient community system in American history. But something was different. People were starting to doubt. A mother in Arizona posted about her home being seized for unapproved landscaping. A disabled veteran in Texas had lost his house over non-payment of HOA innovation fees, despite proof he'd paid. The clips went viral. The hashtag changed, from #HOA terrorist to #HOA truth. But it wasn't enough. This is like kicking down a wall only to find a fortress behind it, Juno muttered one night. They've anticipated everything, even this. Lucia looked at Caleb. There's one shot left. One move that could burn it down. Caleb didn't flinch. Then let's do it. Juno raised an eyebrow. Even if it means crossing the line? Caleb stared at the glowing drive in his hand. The master key. The one that could unlock or crash the entire system. He thought of his daughter. Her drawings, her voice, what it meant to feel safe. He nodded. They want order, he said. Let's give them chaos. They chose the capital steps, not the federal one, Sacramento. It was symbolic, strategic, and most of all, vulnerable. The state governor was scheduled to hold a press conference at noon about the future of AI in urban governance. NACOB would be there. Trident execs would be there. Eliza Renner, too free on bail. Still smug, still smiling. And so would Caleb Mercer. At 11:57 a.m., Lucia Vega climbed the scaffolding across from the press stage and set up a signal repeater. Juno Malik, across town in a makeshift control van, ran final diagnostics on a protocol he named HOA cascading data release mechanism that, once triggered, would upload every document, audio file, and blueprint in Maya's stolen drive onto every public server available. Reddit, WikiLeaks, YouTube, government inboxes, whistleblower networks, HOA forums, neighborhood Facebook groups. Caleb stood on the Capitol lawn, dressed in gray slacks and a thrift store button-up, a duffel bag slung over his shoulder. No weapons, just the drive, just the truth. At exactly noon, Governor Avery stepped to the podium. Today marks a new era in how communities manage themselves, she said. Using AI-assisted tools, Caleb walked up the steps. Security didn't stop him. Too many cameras, too many people. He reached the mic. I'm sorry, Governor, he said calmly, but before we mark a new era, the people deserve to know what they're giving up. The governor froze. So did the crowd. Then, Caleb opened the duffel bag and pulled out the drive, held it up like a lit torch. This device holds proof that silent code and experimental governance AI has been implemented across hundreds of neighborhoods without consent, that private corporations have weaponized homeowners associations to seize land, silence dissent, and automate control of American property from the inside out. A murmur rippled through the audience. Caleb pressed the trigger on the transmitter. In a flash, every screen in a 5-block radius went dark, then flickered, then filled with documents, spreadsheets, emails, transcripts, the faces of victims, the internal memos, the algorithms behind the fines, the scripts used to train AI to detect resistance profiles among homeowners, live, unfiltered, unstoppable. The Echo Protocol had launched. Pandemonium broke loose. Journalists scrambled. Phones lit up. The governor's staff began whispering frantically into headsets. But it was too late. This wasn't a leak. It was a reckoning. Hours later, Caleb sat in a holding cell beneath the Sacramento courthouse. No cuffs, no interrogation, just silence. A federal agent entered quietly and sat across from him. You realize what you've done, the agent said. I stopped a coup, Caleb replied. The agent didn't deny it. There will be investigations, he added. Lawsuits, hearings, maybe arrests. Caleb nodded. And you? I'll disappear, Caleb said. Like always. The agent hesitated. Not yet. He slid a file across the table. The label, Project Helix, Red Zone sites. Silent code wasn't isolated. Trident was just one branch. There are others. Bigger, smarter, dirtier. Caleb studied the file, then looked up. You want me to finish the job? The agent leaned in. We want you to burn it all down. 1 week later, Hawthorne Ridge looked different. Gone were the smug signs of compliance expected. Gone were HOA patrols. Gone were Eliza Renner's ridiculous bylaws about approved mailbox heights and quiet hours. Instead, the HOA office now housed a community legal aid center, funded by class action settlements from the lawsuits Lucia had filed and won. And across from the community garden, A new mural had been painted on the wall of an old tool shed. It showed a man standing in front of a house, mid-demolition, but defiant. In his hand was a flash drive. Above him, the words, "You don't own us." In a motel somewhere off Route 89, Caleb packed his bag one more time. A burner phone buzzed on the table. It was Juno. "You ready?" Caleb zipped up the bag. "For what?" Juno chuckled. "For the sequel." The final scene, Caleb walks into a new town. Quiet, quaint, familiar. A clipboard hangs by the entrance to a gated community. On it the name, Cypress Lakes, HOA. Restoring order, redefining America. Caleb's lips curled into the faintest smile. He walked past the gate. Fade to black.